Oh, what the hell? Oh, it's showing. Hold up. Okay. Oh my god. Bleh. Ah. Hello. Oh my god. How you guys doing, by the way? My voice. It's a little bit. It's a bit off. We were here to watch you play Art the Game. Art the Game. Is that a game? Sounds sick. Yeah, a little bit. I think I have like a sore throat. We good though. We good. We good. We good. Let's put someone else on the corner today. Put the your art. I guess you by the way, Kendo, Nim, and Yua. You guys are doing well. Ah, fuck. Woo. Sore throat. Eat extra crispy stuff, deep fried ice cream, and drink very cold drinks. I think that's the things that you shouldn't do when you have a cold. I think that's how it goes. I'm good, chilling, grinding division. That's cool. That's cool. To go on the grind. Uh, Probably should drink some meds after this. Hearts for Rat. Thank you. Hearts for you guys as well. Q. Hearsay. Hear ye, hear ye. Oh, fuck. What do you mean by hearsay? I actually don't know. I don't get it. um. Okay. Okay. I just finished this one, and I'm probably gonna go do some a little bit of a commission works on stream. Okay. Okay. What the f- I forgot to fix the overlay. No! This will not work. Okay, let me do a alert test. Okay, chat, do not panic. It's not fixed. God damn it. Okay, you know what? Let's do like an emergency alert or emergency overlay. Because I feel bad for people who subbed and don't know, but I don't have their names on the screen as usual. Oh god. Ah, why do I suddenly sniffles a lot? This wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. Latest subscriber. Blam. Bang. Bada 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 bada. Latest tipper. Go. Drink that water. I did. I actually literally just did. As I coughed earlier. I think I just need some meds. It's a little bit, to be fair, it is a little bit rainy recently. So things have been a little bit, you know. Stuff. Under the weather. Yeah, that's the word. Even my brain's lagging. Okay. Now, pardon my sicknessy. I swear, before I started the stream, it was not this bad. And at like 10 minutes in the stream, I just started sniffling again. Ah, so annoying. Isn't it rainy as well at your place, chat? At your guys' places? Or is it just mine? No, it's hella humid. Okay, that's probably a different region. Just hot. Yeah, it is. Okay, so it's just Southeast Asia, confirmed. Like the lower side. Like earlier today, when I just woke up, which is around lunchtime, weekend sleep time. Uh, I woke up with a very heavy rain noise outside. I was like, holy shit. Like super fucking loud. That I can hear it over my music while I'm listening to with my headphones. I was like, what the shit? This is just super loud. It's kind of weird because it's almost like the summer time where it shouldn't be this, you know, when the rain shouldn't be this bad. But hey, we fucked up our climate, boys. Yeah, let's go. Climate who? What climate? Am I right? Heavy Rain, that's the title of a game. You know, you gonna play that? I played that, actually. We finished that, actually. I think it was the last year, though. Quite a while ago. Almost a year ago, I think. Thunderstorm Strikes Back. Sounds like Star Wars. The fuck? Okay, there's a fucking math rock song about Flareon. Nice. Ah. Looks like today the musics on the menu for today are a bunch of math rock. Kind of put one song radio, Spotify radio thingy, and it looks like we've been getting a lot of math rock, which is nice. Hope you guys don't mind. Oh, one sec. Alright, hold on. My drink's here. Let me just. Let's not zoom in on the booba. There we go. Alright, give me a sec. I'll be right back. Let me get my drinks. Yo. Okay. I get a feeling that my barista got my order switched up. Because I ordered a hot coffee. A brewing hot cafe latte. They give me an ice cold. God damn it. It's just not gonna help. Okay, let me just get rid of the ice cube. At least. This is the most important part of the order, actually. I mean, I don't really blame them. I'm a regular there, and I usually order coffee, iced coffee. And I only order the hot coffee once in a while. So they're probably like, oh shit, it's rad. Instead of just like seeing my order, they just see, oh, it's rad. Give them the iced coffee. The iced cafe latte is good. It's like, no man, I'm a little bit sick today. I want something hot. But it's okay. It's whatever. ちょっと待って。Okay. Just gonna manually remove the ice cube and let it sit there for a bit. I don't mind. It's better than no coffee, am I right? I have addiction, chat. I have an addiction issue. Help! Okay. This time you don't need a cold coffee, I know. It's okay. It's no biggie. Thankfully, it's my usual though. I always ask for less ice, so it's only like 2 ice cubes. But it's not that cold. I just remove them all. So we're good. We're good. Daijoubu desu. Ah, fuck. It's so good though. Oh. Nirox, I think. Was it L or I? Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Nirox, thank you for a follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. How you doing? Oh, hold up. Posture check. Don't worry, my posture is good. I think. Is my posture good? I don't know. I think it's too late for my posture chat. I got the gamer posture. Sad go. All right. Sorry. I think there's not much to do with this drawing actually. Only just like what's left over. Which is the shading and the lighting, and then we're good. And then we'll do some commissions. And then we'll do some games. Oh shit. Oh, actually, hold up. Did I download the game that I want to play today? Chotomate. Did I? Oh shit. Okay. It got cancelled because I ran out of fucking space. Are you kidding me, bro? To be fair, it is a 80 gigabytes of game. God damn. That's why I hate downloading like a gigantic game, man. 80 gigs, 70 gigs kind of game or more. I'm someone that constantly ran out of fucking space because I record every single stream. No. Man, I do have some alternative. Like bad today on Friday 13 last couple days ago. True. Yeah, last Tuesday was fucking. Last Friday was Friday the 13th. Oh yeah, talking about Friday the 13th, which is not really correlates, but somehow correlates. Fucking Evil Dead the game. I forgot I wanted to check that out. I'll check it out in a bit. I haven't even bought it though. Apparently it's actually pretty good. At least based on people that played the game. Obviously, I don't know, but it do seems like it. Game is fun. I think you like it. Think so? Have you seen Moive? Is that what is that? Or oh wait, I think that's a typo. Are you talking about the movie of Evil Dead? Yes. I mean, at this point, I feel like a lot of people. Well, I guess Boomer, is since it's an old movie after all. But yeah, I grew up with it. Not really huge, but like it's definitely one of the more iconic I guess slasher-ish, but not really. Like it's just is that one horror movie that's filled with action. And I love it. It was a fun movie. Not would I would say it's a good movie for kids. but, but I did watch it when I was like 13 or 14 or something. But I mean, it is pretty gore. It is pretty gory. So I wouldn't recommend it for underage, but don't worry. I did grow up with some of those horror movies. Heck, one of my favorite movies that I watched when I was 14 or 15 was The Shining. It was not gore whatsoever, but it was definitely traumatizing. A little bit. It's that one. Is that movie that is that horror movie that just kind of like actually scared the shit out of you if you're a kid. Some of the scene in The Shining is actually fucking creepy. Like in a good way, because it's a it's a horror movie. That means they nailed it. But I feel like Evil Dead is more of a action movie that's have a horror theme in it. So it's not necessarily super scary, but it's pretty gory. And Bruce Campbell is a fucking legend. I do have to say that. He is a legend. Although I didn't understand why Bruce Campbell, why Evil Dead turned into a game out of nowhere. Like it's just out of the blue. It's not like some people requested it. I don't think so. Like I don't think everyone's waiting for Evil Dead the game. It just happened. I guess the publisher sees an opportunity to compete with Dead by Daylight. I guess I don't know. That's the only reason that I see. What's up, Nail? Why are you peeing in the chat? What the hell? You gotta go to the bathroom. I told you to go to the bathroom before you go to sleep. Look what happened now. You peeing in the chat. What the hell? It looks cool as a BR shooting? A BR shooting? What do you... Huh? You're talking about Evil Dead? Yo, what's up, Lucas? How you doing? I'm holding piss because I want to see a streamer trying to finish Armstrong fight on hard mode. Armstrong. Oh! Oh my god. Metal Gear Rising. I forgot about that game. I should continue that. Huh. I forgot we started that game. Shit. Well, that's awkward. I really do want to finish that game though, but I don't know how long is that game. Evil Dead the game, yeah, BR. Evil Dead the game have a BR? The fuck? Hey, Reddy, how you doing? I'm good. I'm good. We chilling. A little bit, sniffly, but yeah. The pardon are the sniffles and the cuffs. Kick insane. Ooh, this song. Decent amount if you're not in a rush. Hmm. I really like the gameplay, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm gonna be honest, the hard mode, once I realized that it's not technically makes the game harder, but everyone just have extra HP bar. I was like, ah. But I already realized that, only realized that after like I'm like 1/3 of the game. Like I'm in a mission where you save the kids that abducted. Like, I just finished that mission. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Why is this guy's just harder to kill? Oh fuck. I don't know. It's time with your mom. Well, literally, it was good. It was good. Only for a bit though, because they got some events with their friends. So I'm gonna meet them up again tomorrow. Not much. I don't know. Maybe I should give it a try again though. I do feel like the game is fun in general. Uh, but yeah, yeah. I really do need to give it a try. Oh wait, no, 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 no. I last one I got up until the boss fight where he can split himself apart. You know what I'm talking about, Nil? I forgot his name. Like he's super edgy. It's a part where Raiden turns off his pain receptor and goes back to Jack the Ripper. Jack, not Raiden. Metal Gear Rising? Monsoon, yes. Based on that, since it seems like you've already beat the game, based on that, how much of a percentage I am in that game? Like until like am I 50% in or not? The memes, Jack, the memes. That dialogue is so fucking corny. I love it. It's like, what the fuck? Why is he talking about the memes? So fucking weird. I love it. Sundowner and the double jump Brazilian samurai left. And then you'll meet Armstrong. Oh shit, okay, I'm not that far then. Okay, you know what? If we don't find any games to play after this, you know, drawing, art, and then game. Drawing, React, Andy, and then game. We'll continue. Metal Gear. Maybe I'm gonna finish another game again. Oh shit. Oh fuck. By Brazilian Samurai, are you talking about fucking Slipstream? Sam? Double Jump Brazilian. Hyatt Sundowner is to cringe, but fuck the memes about him are hella funny. Yes, the daddy. Oh god. Okay. Okay. I see you. I see you. Slipstream Jet as Slipstream Sam. The dude who cuts her arms off. Wait, Lucas, have you played Evil Dead? The game? Did you give it a try? Because I know you're a DBD guy. I'm assuming you kind of really into it, or give it a try or something. Bow, 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 bow. I think we'll first have to rematch with the clones of the previous bosses when facing Sundowner. Ooh. No spoiler! But I can see that. No, I haven't, but seen a lot of it at another streamer. Honestly, I'm not sold at the moment. It looks fun, but it's too expensive, in my honest opinion. Epic kind of makes it less appealing. I see, I see. Understandable, understandable. I do have to say, based on the streams that I watch, I only watch Lyric actually that play that game. The fucking graphics looks good. I do have to say they nailed the visual. Good job. But the gameplay, I'm not really sure. Is as the monster or the demon, I guess you can kind of like control a bunch of your minions ish. So it's like 4v1, but like the one guy can like summon things as well, which is kind of cool, I guess, to spice it up a little bit. Makes the fights a little bit more chaotic than DBD. Yeah, it's Epic exclusive. What up, Saints? How you doing? It's way different to DBD though. It's the same genre, but it's completely different approach. Exactly. But I guess it's a DBD comparison or alternative in terms of like if you want that 4v1 stuff going on, then I feel like the gameplay of Evil Dead is more similar to Left 4 Dead, but melee. It's like a third-person melee Left 4 Dead in terms of like the gameplay approach. Well, there's some guns here and there, but most of the time you just see a lot of a fucking smacking and shit. Omega lol. It's fun, fresh approach, I would say. Has some L40 vibes, exactly. Games like that will always get compared to DBD because it's so big and present. Exactly. Let's be honest. They do that. They definitely try to hook on DBD community as well. Let's be honest. Even though the gameplay is not comparable to one, it is definitely be like yo DBD gamers, yo DBD players, take a look at our games. It's cool, It's not exactly the same, but it's like cool. Come check us out, like. They definitely do that on purpose. So yeah. They do for sure. It's the same genre, exactly. What do you call those kind of genre? It's like what? Uh, I guess it's more focused on the 4v1 or the what do you call it? Asymmetrical PvP. Horror survival, yes. So it's asymmetrical PvP, horror survival. Yeah. You know, I was never really sold with the asymmetrical stuff because my brain's when I hear asymmetrical, I immediately think, okay, it's not gonna be fair. I mean, of course, there's a balancing aspect to it, but competitive wise, it's just not gonna work. Maybe and of course, it's not a really a competitive game, but yeah, yeah, it's just different. Oh, I need Reyes I. Hold up. Eh, nani? Oh. I guess what they do better than VHS and Prop Night is that they actually have taken the thought into how they make the game and not just go, hey, people hate DVD, let's make a game. That's true. That's true. They actually trying to make something, you know, yeah, like they want to build a long history with this game. That's what I feel with Evil Dead. Like it's not just like a prop hunt where they just like slap a fucking DVD into it and just like with different visual, different character models and different everything. Like it's not that. It's a lot more than that, and I respect that. You know, there's some good shit. A good communicating team that knows how to what to do is always the advantage. That's just how it is. True. Asymmetrical like 1v3. DVD and ED are 1v4. Yeah. Most of the time, asymmetrical is a 1v4. I don't know why, but I guess it's because most competitive game. This is my take on why they, why most of them are 1v4s because most competitive game is a 5v5. So let's say this competitive players want to try something new that's not exactly 5v5. So let's say they want to play a competitive game with their own team, which is 5-player group. They can just play this game, which is 4v1, you know? So it's like kind of inviting the competitive gamers, in a sense, with a different approach. And that is why it's 1v4. I know it sounds a little bit, kind of a stretch, but that's, I feel like that's one of the biggest reasoning. No, 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 no. Prop Hunt is Gary's mod. Red, you know me. You mean Prop Night? Yeah, Prop Night. Sorry, not Prop Hunt. I don't know, dude. I mean, Prop Night is basically Prop Hunt and DBD. So I keep saying Prop Hunt. It's like VHS and Prop Night were made by people who were fed up by DBD, but still like the waifus girlies like Fang, Mek, and Nea. And that's how the game looks, to be honest. I guess. But what do you mean by VHS? ED has great visual that actually show. Ooh yeah, dude. ED, the Evil Dead with the fucking. Oh my god, the finishing, dude. Oh, I gotta say, it's really fucking nice. It really is. That's like one of the thing. One of the reason I was like, I really want to try this, but I don't know. Like it makes me want to try, but I'm not sure. Okay. I never knew what the symmetrical is. Asymmetrical is just, symmetric is, balance, 1-to-1. Asymmetrical is just like one and not one, for example. The only reason why I mentioned 1v4 is because most of the asymmetrical game are 1v4. Like, for example, Evolved. I'm sorry. That game. That game. Evolved. I remember. Shit. Turtle Rock Studios just cannot get away with it, can they? I feel bad. They just cannot get away with it. Okay, this song's a little bit too chill. VHS is also a DVD-like game? I never heard of it. What does it stand for? Isn't there another game like DVD where the game has a high schooler versus a boogeyman? Wait, that's VHS and Prop Night? Yeah, Prop Night is that. High schoolers and VHS? I feel like I've heard it. Isn't VHS the first person shooter one? The first person perspective one? That only got popular for like a first couple weeks. Yeah, VHS takes place in high school. I remember. Some streamer played that on Twitch for like once or twice, and then that's it. I forgot why they dropped it. I thought today couldn't get worse than you mentioned Evolve Spatka. Shit. What the fuck? The game's literally just called VHS? Okay, I never... Oh, it's coming soon. Okay, that's fair. I was like, I never seen this. Okay, it's coming soon. This is not what I was talking about, though. I was talking about... Let's see if I can find it. There's another asymmetrical game like this where it also takes place in high school. But it's already released and it's dead pretty fast. Like, pretty fucking fast. You guys probably remember what it is. Or probably know what it is, but I just forgot the name. And I can't seem to find it. Yeah. I forgot what it's called. But you guys probably know. It's EAC, and it came out basically the same time Prop Night came out. AC. What the fuck? There's so many DVD clone, huh? Never even heard of this. Oh, wait. Okay. Okay. Last year night. Yes! Thank you. Thank you, Yua. That's what I was talking about. The game's pretty much like, no, yeah, no one really mentioned it anymore after the first couple of weeks. Like, what the fuck? Died pretty fast, unfortunate. EAC Early Access? Oh. I've never really seen anyone mention it as EAC. Me and my friends usually call those stuff not done. Lol, am I right, chat? uh, joking, I'm joking. No toxic, no toxic. We all love developers who's trying. No toxic, no toxic. Oh, wait, different joke, different joke. EAC, me and my friends usually called those games Anthem. Am I right, chat? Okay, that's a good one. Oh shit. Ah, EA. They're always gonna be a fucking laughing stock forever. Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th also a little bit unfortunate, but I feel like it's because the format of the game, based on what I see, is very stale. Like, it's the kind of game that's fun for a little bit and then it's like, that's it, you know? At least that's how I see, based on, because I never played it, but I've seen a lot of fucking streamer played it. Especially when XQC played it with the other peeps. I watched that part and I was like, what the fuck is this game? Like, it's fun, but like, after a couple hours, it's like, that's it?
Eek, me and chat usually call those people raddtrap. BC their fucking brain is retarded lolkek insane raddtrap.
That just doesn't make sense. Oh shit. Oh fuck. Okay, we're really chat. Our comedy is really bad, chat. Come on, don't embarrass me. What if new people? What if new chatter come in here just like, what the fuck are these jokes? Come on, Retrap chat have to be actually good with jokes. Come on, chat. Game devs had drama about ownership, then they just abandon it. Yeah, that's Anthem. That's why I mentioned Anthem, because you know, they released the game as an early access. Get it? Even though it's not. Even though they labeled it as finish, but it's not finish. It never did. I'm just adapting to you. Fair enough, fair enough. Oh my god, sorry. I think the pupil is not obvious enough. I'm not too sure. Any games that requires teamwork dies fast. uh, but you know this one? What's this? Oh my god, my fucking. Creepy Nuts? The fuck? It's a really interesting name. Okay, kind of funky. Da da da. Very catchy. I like it. Uh, uh. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Woo. Woo. Hmm. Okay, that's perfect. Woo. Ubisoft confirmed AC made 300 million in last 12 months, with Odyssey was still being the biggest hit. Oh. Well, I mean, good for them. Like, Ogyu? Wait, that doesn't sound good. The fuck? How much more money? Holy shit. 300 million is not enough? God damn. Yeah, this song is sketchy. Thank you for telling me this one. I'm gonna add this to the playlist you go. What, what, what? There we go. It does not sound that good. Probably spend not so much as much on marketing. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. AC, um, like Odyssey. Odyssey is the fucking Viking one, right? Oh wait, no, that's Valhalla. Well, I guess it's still Odyssey, Origin, and Valhalla. Ever since they changed the format of the Assassin's Creed, the game has been really confusing for me. I was like, what? Like, it's just not as appealing anymore for me. Ever since they changed it, I get it. They try to appeal to a lot of genre, but goddamn, they're trying way too hard to cater to everyone. You know what I mean? Like, you can see it in their games. Like, it's just not trying to be AC anymore. It's also trying to be something else. You know what I mean? To be fair, Far Cry and R6 also made a well over 300 million each. Jesus Christ. Odyssey, Viking, huh? Odyssey has a hot Greek mummy with six-pack. I mean, what? They're trying to be 500k hours of the same content to own right to call it AAA. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I can let out now 41 fucking retries. Nice. Go peepoHey. Oh, fuck. My nose. Stop sniffling! Ah, so annoying. Why do people get sick, chat? I don't get it. Why do we get sick? Getting sick is annoying. Why? Why no give a better way to tell us we're tired, man, other than getting sick? What the hell? 80 total in death. Jesus. Is that hard, huh? Yeah, I don't like this one as much. Let's go back to this. I have a confession to make. I somehow died to Renala on NG plus 3. I mean, NG plus. I don't know. I don't know at which NG plus that Elden Ring started to get really fucking hard. But most, like in Dark Souls, most of the time it starts getting hard around NG plus 4. 4 or 5, yeah. Maybe in Elden Ring it's like 3 or 4. I don't know. I haven't finished. I haven't even finished the fucking NG plus 2 or 1. Sorry. So I don't know. You know. I want to go back to that game, man. That good. But I gotta be patient. I gotta wait for them to finish the DLC, and then we'll check it out. We're not gonna peak the game until they finish it. I haven't uninstalled Elden Ring just to make sure I don't press play on that game until they release the DLC. I'm hardcore like that. Dude, Elden Ring is long play as fuck. Just play already. What do you mean? I already finished it. Oh, in case you're wondering. I played the game 2 weeks. Like literally the first minute the game released, I played it. And I only play Elden Ring on stream for the next 2 weeks since it's released. So I finished the game. I discovered a lot of things as well, but not 100% it. Uh, Played up to NG plus, make different PvP characters and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like okay, that's enough, and now just need to wait for the DLC expansion. Just for the note, if we're talking about anything From Software related or Dark Souls related, you will bet your ass that I have played it. This is Dark Souls fanboy area. So yeah. anything from software release, I've played it at this point. Some not finished, like Bloodborne, because I don't have a PS4. I only played it on my friend's PS4 for like a couple hours. But hopefully in the future, they will release it on PC so we can play it. Amen. Someday, chat, someday. I believe. One day, we will get to play Bloodborne on PC on full 60 FPS. Or even uncapped. But 60 is fine, I don't mind. I just want to play the game. Please, please, man. Please, bro. Bro, please, bro. Bro, please, bro. Bro. Please. Please, bro. Ah, fuck. I think I should get rid of the white stripes. I'm not sure. But it's empty now. FromSoft could release a game identical to AC and Red would sim for it? Fuck no. Because they would never do that. The reason why I would play literally anything they release because I know they will only release good shit. Sure, good shit is subjective. And even some people said Elden Ring is not up to par with some of the Dark Souls or Bloodborne game, but it's still a really good fucking game for me. And I'm not gonna discredit them for trying to make an open world Dark Souls. I mean, if Ubisoft released the exact same ERO, he would love it too, I guess. No. What do you mean Ubisoft hasn't do it? Assassin's Creed Valhalla is basically Elden Ring, a format, an open world action RPG. It's basically their Elden Ring, but in Ubisoft format, and it's shit. I'm sorry. It's boring as fuck. Like if we're talking about, their format, their game format, Elden Ring and Valhalla is basically have a similar uh, format. Both open world game, both have an RPG aspect, both have the dialogue system and somehow with in-depth characters and NPC root deep within the worlds. It got its own, epic third-person melee combat going on, where you can choose your own weapon and stuff. It's the same format as Elden Ring. It's just Elden Ring is actually fun. Sorry. Ah. The only reason I got Elden Ring is because they improved so much I fucking hate in Dark Souls. Well, yeah. And that's successful. I'm not saying that Dark Souls is a bad game, but it is definitely, if we're strictly talking about Dark Souls 1, it is an outdated format. Dark Souls 3 is just good. It's just a good game. It's really hard to say Dark Souls 3 is a bad game. It has its flaws, yes, but it is, in my opinion, the most polished Dark Souls. With its flaws, of course. Like, it have a shittier PvP than Dark Souls 2, and it also have a less interesting lore compared to Dark Souls 1. Like, the level design, the overall world building in Dark Souls 1 is unparalleled. But if that ER got released by Ubisoft, if exact same game you play on stream, would you hate on it? Of course not. I'm not here hating on the name. I'm here hating on the game. Like I I also played a lot of game from Ubisoft that I really enjoyed. Like for example, one of my favorite uh fuck one of my favorite shooter game, Tom Clancy, Ghost Recon 2. Was it Ghost Recon 2 or Ghost Recon 1? I forgot which one that I really like. It's one of my favorite. Back then I played it on Xbox 360 with my friends. Such a good time. Good memories. And I also played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege. Even though it's not my favorite competitive shooter, it's still a good fun game. So the only reason the only reason I also, what's up, Panda? The only reason why I you know, I guess fanboy of From Software so much is that every single release that they do is not really for the sake of what the market wants, or they're not really releasing a game or like, oh, how can we grab as much, you know money as possible in a singular game or some shit like that. Like they're doing the old school shit where just like you release a game and then that's it. That is the final product. No, you don't need to buy a deluxe edition if you want to play extra campaign or hidden mission or some shit. Like, no. The deluxe edition is actually just extra music and a fucking booklet. And then that's it. But everything they release is just final product. And it happened to be the genre or the gameplay, the games that they created, happened to be one of my favorite, which is the Souls-like. So, if you check Demon Souls though, I haven't, because that's on PS3. I never owned PS3. Never know anyone who owned PS3 in my childhood. So I never really touched Demon Souls. Once I get PS5, hopefully in the future, if I decided to get one, I'll definitely try it. But I do not have any plan to buy a PS5 because there's no game to play in that fucking console. Right, no, very far from final product. What do you mean? Yeah. Sorry. Did they ever release a game and be like, okay, this is the first campaign, and then the second campaign we're gonna release it next year, with a different, it's continuation, like, that's what fucking a lot of games out there like to do. It's like very fucking annoying. I think it's nerf and buff, constant performance fixes, quality of life improvement. Elden Ring needs tons of work. That's different though. That is not a cut content. That is an improvement. It's an additional. It's basically you're basically saying, like, the devs keep working on it despite its already release. It's a already 100% game. They just keep adding to it. Different from fucking, let's say, what's a good example? Mm, I don't know. Battlefield 2042 is the most obvious example. They release an unfinished game, like literally. Like they promise a lot of things in their trailers, and all those a lot of things is a season 2, a milestone or a season 3 upcoming content, you know? Like a lot of developers AAA, I'm not gonna blame indie because indie devs can cut their slack when it comes to like the amount of stuff that they want to do, and they usually only charge like $10. But I'm talking about the $60 gangs. If you charge your game a $60 or more, you are obligated to release a finished product. Period. I I just I cannot understand developers who release a $60 on purpose that it's not finished. And they just gonna like release the rest of it, the features later on. Like it's imagine Elden Ring, but the PvP features is a 6 months later update. Imagine that. That's what I meant. Imagine Elden Ring later area, the fucking snow area, is a month 4 update. That's what I mean. Like it's so annoying when a single player game do that. It doesn't make sense. Like why would you cut a content on a single player game? If it's a PvP, I get it. You know, it's like a constant changing games, especially if it's a competitive. Like, you know, in DBD, they get new maps, new hero, new survivors, a new killer every single season. Because it's a, you know, constantly a never-ending game. But if your game have an ending, when you release the game, you release the ending too, not later. You know, it's I don't know. A lot of developers really abuse that, especially AAA. Although thankfully, there's still a lot of good developers, like completely high quality, like you know, keeping their quality on top. Like God of War, it's probably one of the good example of they release finished product.
Oh my god. I see it binoculars cock.
Yes, what's up, Aiden? But yeah, the God of War is 100% a good example of a really polished and actually finished game. Is it perfect? No. Is it really fucking good? Yes. It has surpassed my fucking expectation. That game. It's really insane. Like Guardian of the Galaxy. True. It's just a shame that that game got slanted so fucking hard because of what they did with Marvel Avengers. Really, really fucking sad. Let's be honest. Marvel Avengers officially tainted the name of Marvel in the gaming industry. Officially. Like I don't really do that. Like, you know, I believe you when you said Guardian of the Galaxy is actually a good game. But there's so many people out there that don't give a shit. When they hear or see Guardian of the Galaxy, even though it's a good game, they'll be like, they made Marvel Avengers. It's a shit game. This probably shit as well. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. Like all of my friends who doesn't play the game make fun of it because it's a Marvel game. It's really sad. It really is. But hey, it is what it is. That's how the industry works, unfortunately. You just gotta appreciate what you can do and work your best at it. Because I believe Crystal Dynamics is a really talented and actually a good developer team. They just got fucking cucked on that Marvel Avengers by Square Enix. They got cucked real fucking hard. Square Enix fucking cringed it, honestly. Cringe. Actual cringe fest. I'm glad they're off the hook from Square Enix now. And get into the Embrace group. They deserve better. And yet you don't play it, or at least show them, yes, we need more of these, not the last one. Because I'm not ready to play it yet. Don't worry. I still gotta play it. It's just a matter of when. It's a fucking Game Pass game. There's no way I'm not gonna play it. Don't worry. Oh! Oh, fuck my nose. Svathir. Svathir. Thank you for a follow. Appreciate it. Much love. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Welcome, welcome. Oh my god. Oh, my nose, bro. Oh, Jesus. Guardian of the Galaxy game is that the Avengers games want to be. It felt like COD format from their movies affected the game. Yeah. Square Enix are off to sell NFTs now. True. I don't know. Square Enix kind of cringe. I really wish, because you know, Square Enix still own like some of the good game, especially Final Fantasy. Yoshi P, the director of Final Fantasy Online, he's one of the, if not one of the greatest game director out there. I'm not kidding you. Dude is a fucking legend. The things that he's done for the game is nutty. Imagine, for a second, you own a fucking multi-billion-dollar game. I don't know, billion or million. It's a shit ton of money, right? Multi-million-dollar game called Final Fantasy Online. Everyone wants to play it ever since, you know, you release your latest expansion. Asmongold praised the shit out of it so much that he left his 10 years old, no, 2 decades old game called World of Warcraft to play Final Fantasy and ask everyone to play it. And then it has so many players that the servers are fucking dying. And what the fuck did he did? He stopped selling the game. He makes it so that you are not able to buy the game, so he halt the player base for a bit, so that people who bought it can enjoy the game as the servers get better, and then people who hasn't buy the game is not gonna waste their money on a server that is literally dying. He hold income of the game so that everyone can play it and is not feeling scammed. Bro, I'm not an MMO player, but I wish Yoshi P make, like, you know, other games that I can actually play or enjoy. Actually fucking legend. Actually fucking legend. That dude deserve the status of Hideo Kojima. Too bad, you know, his name is not as big as Kojima. Sucks that they sold off Tomb Raider. I know, but I feel like Crystal Dynamics also better off without Square Enix. You know what I mean? Especially like Square Enix game, I can't help but the feel of disappointment on their recent decision. Exactly. They're going to the EA route. On trail of Mana get off Square Enix. Yeah, those Final Fantasy and their spin-offs is they probably never gonna get rid of it, or, you know, lose the grips, because it's their biggest moneymaker. Trail of Mana is really fucking good, by the way. I actually love the new Tomb Raider. I just wish they weren't so empty. I haven't played it. For Tomb Raider, I only played the first one. I really loved it, but I haven't got the chance to try out the rest of the game in the series. Probably gonna try it out once I get a better GPU because I remember I tried the second game off stream and I have to lower the quality to like medium-ish, and the game does not look that good on my GTX 1060. So probably once I upgrade my GPU, we'll play it on Ultra. Yes, sir. Amen. just wish me luck on getting an actually good price GPU, okay, chat? Wish me luck. Wish me luck. Next month. Next month. Oh, it's shading. Okay, what the fuck is this? This is so... Okay, here.
Can't wait for Final Fantasy 16 releases since Yoship been trying to get this game runs perfectly well binoculars.
Oh, yes. I don't know how it's gonna be, but we all trust in Yoshi P. Direction. Just hope that it's gonna be a hella good game. I'm not a big fan of Final Fantasy. I'm like mid. I only played Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy Tactics, and then a little bit of Final Fantasy 13. But that's it. But I enjoyed those games. I never played the remake. I only played the original in PlayStation 1. Final Fantasy 7. Konami are supposedly remaking Metal Gear Solid, which is stupid that they're trying to write off Hideo's hurdles once again. I don't know. Konami can do whatever the fuck they want. I don't really. They're just kind of like invisible in my eyes at this point. And I'm pretty sure a lot of gamers also agree. No one really care about them anymore. Ever since what they did with Kojima. It's kind of cringe. I'm asleep early. Don't worry, Red. I'm sure semiconductors will be cheap again. Alright, Nell. Have a good sleep, man. Super early, by the way. Holy shit. I guess you got something to do tomorrow, since it's Monday. Good luck, man. Have a good sleep. Thank you for stopping by as always. I'll see you on the next stream. Jane. Alright. Okay. But yeah, man, there's so many good developers that's fucking stuck with such a shitty publisher out there. Like another example in my book that is one of my favorite developer team is DICE. Fucking amazing history that team have. They just got fucking destroyed by this game called 2042. Holy shit, man. I don't know how are they gonna come back with since the 2042 accident. It's gonna be really fucking hard. It's gonna be really fucking hard. But as long as it's DICE, I'm still gonna keep an eye out. I'm not gonna buy or pre-order every single game they have, but I love how talented those team is, and I just wanna keep keep an eye out on their games. Guess there's going to be a new mobile Final Fantasy VII game that allows you to play all the Final Fantasy VII variants, including the Crisis Core on mobile. Ooh, but the original, right? Like the PlayStation 1 stuff. Is it Crisis Core PlayStation 1? I think so, right? I never really finished Crisis Core back then. I forgot. I think I got stuck because it was a PlayStation 1 era. I was still a kid. I got stuck at like some part of the game and just like give up. It's too fucking bad. But then again, I play a lot of shit. Crisis Core PSP, yeah, yeah. Sorry. PSP. Such a confusing product. It's such a good, like, it was good, but it was like kind of weird as well. I remember having that handheld. It was like, I mean, it's good, but it's like some of the fucking flaws really dog shit as well. Like the speaker's just bad, and the pad is just so fucking mushy. But some of their games really good as well. I'm so confused with PSP back then. Deep Silver, they publish some great games, but one look at their history and you know they're a piece of shit. Yeah, Deep Silver is also dodgy as shit. Rat looking handsome today, like always. Oh shit. Thank you, people blush. What's up, how you doing, Hedian? Handheld, Nintendo for life. Well, yeah, the biggest success in handheld is still Nintendo, but PSP was actually pretty fucking good. It was actually not bad. It was just kind of like PlayStation first attempt in handheld, and I guess they just got traumatized with PS Vita. It just went downhill from that. Like they were like, yeah, handheld is not our forte. Let's get the fuck out of here. Just make PS4. Just make PS4. PS Vita was such a fucking weird ass product. They fucked up real bad with Vita. Like, imagine you're marketing your new console. It's a handheld console. It was supposed to be like a sequel to PSP in a sense, but like it can be like it can be paired to like I don't know how to explain it, but when they market PS Vita, it almost seems like Vita is an additional. You know what I'm talking about? Does that make sense? Like when Vita released, it doesn't feel like a brand new console, but it feels like it's an additional console. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about Vita. That's why it never blew up. Because everyone just thought, oh, it's just that one additional thing that PlayStation released while, they're gonna release PS4 or something like that. That's what a lot of people thought, including me. So that's why I was like, what the fuck is Vita? What do you mean Red is Majing? Vita was my childhood shit? Well, if it's your childhood, that's different. I grew up with I grew up since PlayStation 1 era. So I have PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, SNES. I don't have GameCube, but I play a lot of GameCube. A Nintendo 64, the earlier one. And then there's, Game Boy Color, which is the more superior and stuff. And I'm pretty sure back then Vita, a direct competitor was 3DS, I think. And if you just compare it, 3DS is just way, way more superior than Vita. I'm not talking about the games, okay? I'm talking about the features that the console have. If we're talking about a game, that's its own thing, right? We're talking about the actual hardware, the capability, the features. 3DS is way ahead than Vita in terms of like quality. Because 3DS, I forget my child social life, my parents, my destiny, my personal inner self, my anyway, who am I? Grew up in SNES era. Well, I was like a fucking what? I was 9 years old, 10 years old. I was like really fucking young when SNES was around. But I do remember I played like Super Mario, you know, fucking Mario Kart, like the OG, all that kind of stuff. My household, uh, we have PlayStation, but my neighbors, when I grew up, which is my best friend for like almost 10 years since I grew up in that, is a Nintendo owner. So I got lucky to have experienced both PlayStation and Nintendo growing up because we keep if we want to play PlayStation games, my friends will come to my house. If I want to play Nintendo games, I will go to my friend's place. Unfortunately, though, I skip Xbox entirely. The original Xbox entirely. But then again, who gives a shit about the original Xbox? Like who? Like what? Who? Only 360 that I get the hang of. But also, I didn't really have big moments with that game, that console. Only a few. I'm bed go with headphones. Also, I never had any consoles but the Vita. Oh, okay, well, that's different then. That means you have a personal relationship with it. Sony tried to do touchscreen handheld, but Nintendo did it better, but with 3D technology. That and the game devs seen Vita not selling well. True, true. A lot of things. A lot of things that's it's just Vita is just that unfortunate product. It's the same as Wii U. I'm not saying that Nintendo is perfect. Nintendo also fucked up with Wii U. Like, what the fuck is Wii U? You know, like, what? Like, is it like an upgrade to Wii? Like, when if I want to have Wii U, do I need to have a Wii? Like, what the fuck? Like, it was a confusion as well when Wii U was released. Like, everyone just like confused. Like, do you need to own a Wii to own a Wii U? Or like, what the fuck? Why is it called Wii U? Huh? Like, everyone just like confused with Wii U, including me. I was like, huh? What the fuck is this console for? What is the idea of this console? They fucked up with Wii U. Imagine if Sony and Nintendo actually released their hybrid console they once collabed on. What is it? Wait, they collabed before? I never heard about that one. And a PS3 until my mom trashed it away. No. What is Tua? Tua means old in Indonesian. The Rock liked Xbox. Go on. Like our Game Pass, damn it. Their Game Pass is also like, it's a steal, but like it's not a perfect platform either. It's a confusion of a pronoun console. True. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I grew up with PlayStation, so I grew up with a lot of classics from PlayStation 1, Crash Bandicoot, fucking Splinter Cell, right? I'm pretty sure some of you guys heard Metal Gear Solid, Tactical, Espionage, I think what the subtitle was. A lot of original PlayStation 1 stuff. NASCAR Rumble, I feel like PlayStation 1 is such a good that generation console. I want to try Xbox X. You can ask Saints. Saints is the only person here in the chat that actually know a lot about Xbox. He's the Xbox community manager in my chat. Wing wing. So yeah, chat. Any Xbox question, just tag Saints Flow. Yeah, it was PlayStation and NES combined. Can I post a link? Sure. We are learning here. We are learning.
Here's my take as a PlayStation kid. Vita was shit, its marketing was bad, even though the hardware has the power of PS3 console.
Yeah.
The storage memory is shit.
True.
Why the fuck it uses memory stick and it cost a lot just to get a bigger memory?
Oh my god, I forgot about the memory stick. Such a dumb concept. It's a money-making concept. Let's be honest. It's a money-making. That's the only reason. Oh my god. I forgot about that. Ah, shit. So dumb. Alright, Nintendo PlayStation. What the fuck is this? Let me show it on screen. What the fuck is this? Huh? Yo, look, this looks like a fucking alternate dimension. What the actual fuck? Is this real? 1994. Prototype developed by Sony in collaboration with Nintendo. Wait. Collaboration with Nintendo? PlayStation 1 was 1994. Wait, this happened in the same year? It was designed as a hybrid console compatible with Nintendo Super NES, as well as Sony new CD-based Super Disc. The console ultimately went on release. They don't want to control licensing for a CD version of a game in this format. Nintendo tried to work a way around this problem, but of course Sony refused. Okay. Nintendo found out that Sony was planning to backstab them by obtaining most and or all of the profits, leaving Nintendo next to nothing. Nintendo President Yamauchi-san sent a few higher-ups to Europe with Philips, Sony's arch-enemies. When Philips got to the offer from Nintendo, they immediately said yes, and it was Nintendo, so of course they'd say yes. This description is like a fucking drama. Interesting. That would be insane. That would be a completely alternate dimension if this ever released. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? A fucking console that can support both CD for PlayStation and cartridge for Nintendo. That would be... Dude. Omega console. That's insane, though. I never heard of this. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. The actual console was sold in auction for $360. Damn. Dude, whoever owns that owns a fucking piece of history. That shit is not light. That is some actual history right there. There's some hardcore shit. Oh my god. My nose. Was it 94 when you were a college student? I didn't. What do you mean? 94? I haven't even born yet. Dude, I'm not that old. Jesus! 94, I wasn't even born. You fuck. How old do you think I am? 50? Jesus Christ, man. Holy shit. I was born in 96. Okay? I was born in 96. So, yeah, PlayStation 1 released before I was even born. PlayStation 1, sorry. PlayStation 4. The fuck? Wait with it. Not enough big games. Yeah, Xbox new console right now. The only reason you want to get a new console is that if you really, really want to play the exclusives right now. But other than that, it's not really worth it. Either you have, either you just want to play the exclusive, or you just have some money to burn. Like you don't give a shit. Like sure, whatever. But if you just want to buy it for the sake of like, ooh, I need a new console. I want to upgrade or something like that. Not really worth it. And I'm also talking about PlayStation 5. It has some good exclusive, but it's not worth just to get the exclusives. Definitely not. That's a lot of money just to play a handful of games. As in right now. Rumor has it new Nintendo console will be revealed next year. I mean a fucking Switch Pro is definitely coming. If not announced this year, definitely next year. Like it's a no-brainer. Honestly. Because let's be I'm gonna put out my hot take here, which is not too hot because I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably rumor or agree with this rumor as well. Oh shit, Doom. Breath of the Wild 2 got delayed to next year because they're gonna release it the same day as this new Nintendo console. And Breath of the Wild 2 is gonna be their premiere game for this new console, but it's also gonna be available for Switch with a lower resolution or setting. Clip this, show it to me again when the new Nintendo console release. 100%. Well, not 100%, but it's a gut. It's kind of obvious. I'm pretty sure I'm not alone this one. It's just kind of obvious. Like they weren't planning to delay Nintendo Breath of the Wild, but because they already delayed the first time because of COVID, shitty, you know, scheduling because of the COVID, and it close to the release the schedule of the next console. They were like, why not we just like delay it and release it the same day as the new console to really blow the shit out of this? You know what I mean? It's such a obvious marketing, and it's gonna work. Trust me, it's gonna fucking work. If they actually gotta do that, Breath of the Wild gonna blow everything off. And Nintendo new console sales gonna be high as shit if they gonna do that. 96 more like Angkat on 69. Good one. Oh cool, do we get new paid calculator and sue another 10,000 people? True. If it's not true, Beth upstream. What? I didn't promise that. I didn't promise you guys anything. Oh, fuck. I think we're done. I think we're done, so. Oh, wait, lighting. I'm dumb. Jesus. Fuck. What's up, chew up? Yeah, it's really. I'm not really like a huge, or at least lately, I'm not really up to par or up to the updates, the recent updates for gaming console and shit like that. But ever since the fucking PS5 and Xbox Series releases, it was kind of a bummer because of the scalping and shit. So I'm not really too excited about new consoles until that issue's not gonna be a thing. I'm kind of like chilling here, man, because no one really wanna fucking buy an overpriced console or less game. You know what I mean? It kind of sucks because I know console is a lot of alternative for a lot of people out there that just want to play games and not really spend thousands of dollar on a gaming PC. You know, because I can just say, if you want to play a lot of games, just buy a PC, man. But PC is not a cheap fucking thing. I have to save up a lot of time, and I have to fucking work part-time job in a college just to build my PC right now that I have. It's a lot of money just to play games. That's why I don't own a PC just to play games. It's a workstation for me. Two games I'm excited for to hopefully see some gameplay is Callisto Protocol and Stalker 2. I mean, technically Stalker 2 we already see the gameplay ish. I'm not sure if it's going to be one-to-one to the release, but Callisto, I 100% agree. As a big fan of fucking Isaac's traumatic experience adventure, I am really excited for Callisto. Not super hype, but I know I got a feeling it's got to be good. Since it's made by the director of the guy who designed Dead Space. And Dead Space is a hella good fucking game. I'm talking about Dead Space 1 and 2. I'm not talking about 3. I'm sorry. 3? Who? I'm just gonna act that game's like a spin-off. Alright? I'm sorry. But Dead Space 1 and 2 is Jesus Christ. That game is an experience that I feel like a lot of people have to experience. That's why, even though the remastered is made by EA, not the original devs, I don't mind. I feel like a lot of people still need to get jump into the Dead Space hype. It's a really worthy game to experience. Bro, just spend $4,000 to run your games on medium. Okay, go on. But yeah, I mean, as in like in this current year, especially with the market, GPU market still not back to 100% pricing. You if you want to play like the latest AAA games on high, you got to spend at least 1500. 1500 to 2000. You can kind of get it with 1000 range, but it's going to be like brand new game, you gotta push it down a little bit in the settings, like medium high maybe, or you're gonna have to upgrade in the next 3 years if you wanna keep on high settings, which is you don't want to do that. That's wasting money. Oh my god, Dead fucking Space. My mom was always yelled at me back in 2013 when I played the fucking. Yeah. That game is an experience. I love it. Dead Space 1 was that game that I wish I can experience it for the first time again because my god. I love getting scared the shit out of me. Like I love that game, fucking just fucking make me scream like a fucking bitch. That game is fucking golden, man. And the death scene, holy fuck. Classic. uh this Ray remakes looking good so far, but the environment effects and being able to shoot the skin of necromorphs true. We saw it as well on stream. That space was scary at first timer. Now it's mad to me, maybe because horror shit is too tainted to me now. Well, because you kind of used to it. That's why I said I wish I can experience that space for the first time again, because that element, the first time element in Dead Space really strong. When you don't know shit, you know, the story about Isaac, this just some guy who worked in this cargo-ish, like he's just a scientist-ish, but it's like, you know, scientist in space, so he kind of also worked in the cargo of this fucking company. So he was just there to just check out this fucking abandoned the ship that's got abandoned communication. I forgot the name of the fucking gigantic ship in the first game. And he happened to be that one guy that have to go through traumatic like probably one of the most suffering in a gaming protagonists that have to go through, I feel like. Isaac from Dead Space is like up there, top 10 of the most unfortunate guy in the game. In my opinion. Dude just want to fucking live as a normal human, you know, just want to get some money, go home, you know, kiss their wives and shit like that, have a good time with his family. And throughout Dead Space 1 and 2, his life turned into hell. It's fucking sucks, man. Holy shit. Right, I'm 332 hours in and just figured out how to use quick slots in Elden Ring. Jesus Christ, man. Actual true gamer. Hydrate chat. Thank you, Hadian. Oh my god, it's already 2 hours. I gotta finish this. It's almost done. Oh my god. I'm not a screamer when play horror game. I just dead silent, sweating crazy. I see. I did hydrate. The fact that the remake devs are actually listening to what the majority of people want in the remake is great. True. Because Dead Space, risking your chance, your company, you know, spending a shit ton of money to remake a masterpiece. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm pretty sure everyone agrees. If you play Dead Space 1 and you play a lot of horror game, Dead Space 1 is a gem. Like, it's just it's really really fucking good in the horror genre. So try to remake that masterpiece without the original director is scary. It's really really risky. So I want to see if they gonna nail it or not. It's like trying to remake a fucking, you know, I don't know. Try to remake Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask in the current console, and actually make, you know, people be like, "Oh shit, this is a good remake." It's really hard. That's too much pressure, in my opinion. I think Simon Jarrett from Soma has this. Oh my god! Thank you for reminding me about Soma. Soma, by the way, one of my favorite game. One of my favorite horror game of all time. Really, really fucking good. It's so good. I played it on stream twice. I still love it. Ooh, but yeah, you're true. I mean, the only difference between Simon from Soma and Isaac from Dead Space is that Simon went through existential crisis. Like, sure, he got chased by some of this very disturbing looking monsters. That's probably a mutation of their friends or colleagues at work. I'm trying to tell this without spoiling the game in case any of you guys want to play it. But I think Simon went through a more emotional, like really fucked up emotional experience rather than physical. So it's more of like fucking up, like I feel like at some point in the game, like after the second half, like around the second half of the game, I can see like through the dialogue between him and the girl, Catherine. Like I feel like Simon is going insane, like terminally insane. Like he's given hope multiple times, but every time he's getting there, you know, fucking Satan just like, nope, fuck you. Like, nope, nope, you just gotta keep suffering, bitch. Like, Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. Like, oh man. Soma's ending is one of the most uncomfortable ending that I've played in a single player game. Like it's not disturbing, but it's just uh like I would do anything to not experience what Simon is experiencing. You know what I mean? I just, oh my god. Also, anyone who haven't played Soma, please please search Soma on Steam. If you don't like it, you tell me in my fucking face that you don't like that game. But you gotta finish it. It's a masterpiece. It's not a 10 out of 10 game, no, but the horror experience in that game is not a jump scare like a oh scary, it's like existential type of horror. You're really good in the trap genre. Okay. Is this playing God? Yep. Olivia. Stop making me want to play Soma. You should play Soma. You should be ashamed if you haven't played Soma. Just kidding. But if you guys love horror genre, you're missing out if you haven't played Soma. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like you say to yourself that you like shooter games, but you never played Doom. You know?
I already go through enough existential dread by watching raddtrap.
Go on. Good one, man. Okay, what else? I think we're done. Did I miss anything? Don't really want to overdo this one. I've not played Soma yet. Pamela is better. We played Pamela first episode though. Only the first episode. It was alright. It's alright. Welcome back, Pain. But I do feel like frictional games kind of like not really nailed it in terms of like their sequel for Amnesia, the Amnesia Rebirth. That game was a disappointment for me. Not not that it's a bad game, but it's just like it's not, because a lot of people were hyped. If you played Amnesia and Soma, you're hyped as fuck. With Amnesia Rebirth when they announced it, but it's not up to the hype at all. It is kind of a meh. Coco, huh? If Dead Space remake does really good in terms of sales and reviews, I hope this new devs make a fourth game and do the series justice. Uh, I don't think it's gonna happen. For two things, or two reasons. First, the director, the original guy who made Dead Space, special. I forgot his name. Is a really cool guy. You know, get fired by EA. Remember, EA fucking shut down Visceral, which is kind of dumb. But yeah, they fired him, so he make a he joined, or I forgot, he joined or he make a new gaming company, game developer team, and make Calypso, which is technically gonna be the next Dead Space. So we can just think that that is like the spiritual successor to Dead Space. And second, I feel like EA just not gonna risk it to make a Dead Space 4 and risking another Dead Space 3 failure, you know. So I feel like they're just gonna either remake Dead Space 2 if Dead Space 1 is really good, and then just or do nothing. If we played Alien Isolation, yes, and we finished it on stream as well. It was a good game. I had a fun time with that game. Good alert, not feeling great at the moment, maybe taking a nap. All right, Lucas, have a good nap, man. Hope you get well as well. I feel like a lot of people are getting sick lately. For me, it's because of the rainy season here. I fucking hate flu, man. The sniffles annoying. Insane. Alright, I think we're done with this one. I think we can do some gaming, Chad. I think we can do some gaming. Let me just... Oops. I don't know where to put this one, though. I guess here. Oh, wait. I gotta clean some of the lines. Rat, why your nose is running? Cause he is doing leg days. You ha ha ha. Fucking dead jokes. God damn it. To be honest, Hello Neighbor is also a horror game for me. I tried Hello Neighbor. It is It is a little bit creepy. I do understand, but like, I don't like the concept of it. It's a little bit too experimental. That kind of like It's kind of COVID-19? I hope not, man. I already got 2 shots, but I haven't got the booster shots, not yet. I should probably though. Too bad Elder Scrolls 6 is being delayed due to Bethesda's space game being delayed a year. I wouldn't worry too much about Bethesda Elder Scrolls 6, because it's a big deal and they definitely want to be really, really careful with that game. They want to make sure they don't do a Fallout 76. You know what I mean? So I'll say they should take their time, if anything. Like, everyone's hype about it. If you're a big fan of Elder Scrolls, you're probably hyped about it, but I think everyone's realized that, we shouldn't they're probably not super like just release it now, like, because we all know Fallout 76 is a disaster. So it's more like, just make sure the game's fucking polished and then release the game. You know? Is yeah, no one likes what happened with Fallout 76. I I mean, they kind of fixed the game over time, but still, day one experience was dog shit. It was awful. Gaming, you say? React Andy? Yeah, we'll do some React Andy. You guys can link the videos in the chat if you want me to check out some games. Some video. Whether it's a, game trailers or whatever. Short video, funny. Actually, I've actually been looking for a lot of good indie games. So if you guys know some good indie games, like a hidden gem, do let me know. Whether just link the trailers in the chat, or I do have a section in Discord, in my Discord, called suggestion box, because I know I probably miss a lot of good game out there, especially when it comes to indie. So yeah. Get some good shit, do let me know. We'll stream until 5 a.m. No. No, 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 no. Tomorrow I still gotta do some stuff. I got some errands to do tomorrow. Tomorrow's holiday for me, but it's a national holiday, but I got some stuff that I need to do. And I may or may not gotta go to the doctor, because this flu has been going on for a while. So I just want to make sure. Fallout 76 began as a disaster, but at least it got fixed, like unlike Cyberpunk, which started as a disaster and still is. Cyberpunk is actually being fixed as well, but their fuck up is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more massive fuck up that I feel like a lot of people will never get over it. So yeah. In indie developer indie game. Nice. Hold up. Let me just save this and upload this on Twitter. I think it was done. Rhea in traditional Chinese dress. She looks cute. What do you guys think, chat? Goddamn. Mm. Yeah. Sorry. What?ちょっと待ってね。 Bigger than they were. Hopefully City Project Red can redeem themselves with the new Witcher game that we know they're working on now. Oh yeah. I guess we'll see about that one. Booba looks perfect, not too much nor too small. I feel like Rhea's size is definitely a little bit on the bigger size. No matter how hard you tell me. It is on the bigger side. Bum 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 bum. Okay, there you go. If you guys want to see it's in HD. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Like, and subscribe. Wait, that's wrong. I just need one more followers to 100 on Twitter, by the way. One more. I just found out that I have 99 followers on Twitter. What the fuck? Follow me Twitter, please. So people can see I have number. Wow. Big number. Thank you. Okay. Video time. Let's see. Oh, we got some big links right here. Oh shit. Let's click. Thanks for the rare Chinese dress, like always. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you for the requests. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. One more to 100. Should I follow you? If you have Twitter and you like to watch me stream, why not, man? I post all my drawings over there. So please do, please do. It helps me get more you know, stuff from eyes from developers actually. More eyes from developers mean more free games access. More access games means more free content for you guys. Wow. Free content? Nani? Oh, wait. There we go. Where's my... Oh, I gotta refill my water. Okay, toilet break. Everyone, 1 minute toilet break before we start watching some stuff. So if you don't want to miss a thing, people pee pee right now. People piss or people poo poo. All right, give me 1 minute. Also, if you haven't followed me on Twitch, which is where we at right now, and you're watching me, we are literally, I'm not even joking, literally, we only literally need 8 followers to reach 1,000.
Chat. Go follow raddtrap so we can play with your mom with our cock smile cat boom.
What? Okay, that's not part of the deal. What? We only need 8 followers.
Oh! Snip, snap! Yeah!
I caught my sister putting the carrot in her vagina. It's a shame because I was about to, but now it's going to taste like carrot.
Oh, God. Man. No, with the 14 months resub. Oh my fucking God. Anyways, thank you so much for the 14 months sub in a row. Still on streak, non-stop. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Much love, much love. How you doing? How you doing? No. You're crazy, man. You're crazy. By the way, chat, this is the guy that's responsible to break my fucking alert. And surpass the goal. It's one of the two. No and Lucas. It breaks my fucking sub goal. That's why we have 76 subs right now. And my alerts broke. My overlay, I mean. Dude, you actually broke my alert. You and Lucas actually broke my alert. Remember the fucking layout that I have over the top, where you can see the sub name and dono name? It doesn't show up anymore because of that. I don't know what happened. I tried to fix it, but it doesn't. You actually break my fucking overlay. Oh my fucking God. But thank you though, thank you. I might need to ask you about it because it's I forgot where did I get it, and it's a fucking HTML CSS shit. I don't know if you can fix it, but since you
Fuck you all, Pagman.
Whoa! Since it's you're a programmer, you probably not understand some of it. It's basically HTML and CSS built in or written in the fucking stream element. So yeah. Once again, thank you. Most of the people in the chat is now sub thanks to Luno and Lucas. So yeah, raddtrap H. Again, thank you for the 14 months in a row. Big support, thank you. Okay. You know what time it is, chat? You know what time it is, people. It is time for some React Andy. Subs. 6-month plan. Oh yeah, Nell with the 6-month plan as well. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Much love. Alright. First video. Get rid of the cat dance. Muchas gracias. First video is from Saints. It's called When the Trailer Spoils the Entire Movie.
I swear, I'll find the ones that did this to you.
This fall.
So I hear you want to find the man that killed your father.
More than anything in this entire world.
Sure thing. Follow me.
Embark on a journey.
Oh shit, the quality.
Ah, who's this guy?
He's someone that can help us.
Oh, did you lose somebody too?
Yeah, I did. Oh my god, that's my dad. You're my brother?
Nah.
Take off
Hello,
that
Rad,
mask,
how
you
are you
coward.
today?
I want to see the face of the man that killed my father. No! Brother! Why would you do this?
You don't know every part of the story, brother.
The ones you love.
Before you pull that trigger,
I think there's someone you should meet. No! No more games! No more lies! I have to avenge my father!
Hey, kiddo. Sorry I'm late.
Dad? You're alive?
I never left.
What?
Memory Lane, the final memory.
That's so dumb. I love it. Good one. Also, what's up, Don? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. New Australia patch drop. Oh shit. Alright. In the queue you go. Alright, next one. Oh, Ichika. Dude, that guitar is so sexy, by the way. Holy shit. This is like a full-fledged song. Dude, I'm gonna try to save up for this guitar once I get my GPU. Honestly. Yeah, oh my god. This guitar looks so sexy. After the GPU though. GPU is super priority. Good song. It's called Late Night Walk. You should release this on Spotify. This is actually chill. Okay. Next video. Coral Island. Oh shit. It's a game trailer. Harvest Moon? Whoa. It's like a Icelandic Harvest Moon-ish. Kind of remind me of that. The underwater part is interesting. Okay. Looks interesting. Kind of have the Disney art style as well. Like Western Harvest Moon. Indonesian devs? No shot. God damn, okay. Oh yeah, I just realized his name's Surya. I was like, what the fuck? Oh my god, they got nasi tumpang. Holy shit. Kerak telur, bro. Oh my god. Interesting. Okay. Good shit. Alright, next one. Whoa. A bossy? Okay, wait, who linked this? I think there was Nell. Ooh. Tossing a bossy playthrough. Yeah. The video gotta be sexy. What up, Mr. Twitch? This dude is a fucking beast. That thumb, man. I like how they zoom in on that one. Oh! Look at his thumb. Look at his thumb. Oh my god. Oh, he's showcasing Neural. God, dude. His playstyle is so fucking sexy. Oh, this video is sick. For watching Twitch again yesterday? Hell yeah, welcome back. Yeah, his thumb is very popular of how his playstyle with his thumb is very unconventional. Ooh, monogen. Holy shit. Okay, oh my god. I haven't seen that. That video might be a little bit too basic. Or like, you know, if you don't really listen to like progressive metal, it's kind of like eh. But goddamn. I'm a huge fan of this guy. He got some really cool method of playing the guitar. God. Oh look, it's my video. What the fuck? This guy's in here. But chat, I uploaded a new YouTube music cover a couple days ago. You guys can check it out on my YouTube panel down below. Link. Yeah. Alright. Moving on. Next video. Want to know what happened since I was gone? I mean, not much. The usual, you know how I do. Always keeping it, you know, raddtrap. I don't know. I don't do anything. All right.
Hi, my name is Roy Toison, and I am the Associate Art Director for the Dead Space remake. Today, I want to talk to you about the environment art process. How we are remaking the game with our new tools, techniques,
Oh,
and
we already
items.
watched this.
And finally do a demo in the Frostbite engine.
Yeah,
on
we
how
already
took
watched
a room
this.
from the legacy
The
version to our current work in progress.
I forgot the name. The Alive
Today,
system.
we are going to look at the MRI room in Chapter 2.
Yeah, we already watched
When
this.
recreating is when the area will be playable.
Yeah, we already watched this. The 30-minute video. It was really in-depth development video though of the concept of the game.
Like water or dust, for instance.
It's pretty cool.
Of course, these techniques
It's like
are
they're
better applied
showcasing
once the assets are put in context in the level.
Game engine
Tuning
development.
the master shader and adding volumes of world masking are an integral part of defining the storytelling of the
number of locations in the Ishimura to show damaged areas. What I'd like to show you is how these effects can react to changing environmental conditions, and in this case, what happens when gravity is disabled. I'm going to disable the gravity here.
Whoa.
And right now we can see that these VFX are behaving differently, and they're no longer falling to the floor. Now there's a lot more happening than just the gravity. I can make a number of artistic choices as to how the VFX behave. For example, with the drips, I wanted to extend their lifetime so they spread out across the room rather than disappear quickly. For the sparks, I reduced their turbulent motion because when they had a lot of turbulence, it felt like they were still in normal conditions. There's a number of things that we can modify so that when the player interacts with these effects, they'll feel believable and well integrated.
You know, I'm gonna give some props to the developers of this remake to actually put in some extra effort to just make the game not just stay true to the original, but also improves to so that it actually looks like a fucking, you know, current gen or actually next gen or current gen game, which is what a remake should be. But yeah, good shit. But yeah, we already watched this. It's a 30-minute video, so we're not gonna watch it again. Hey, what's up, Ice? Hello, is this raddtrap the greatest DVD player of our generation? Okay, I'm sorry. I think you just described yourself. Okay, hello. What's up, by the way? Welcome to the stream. How you doing? Also, I think I figured out how to pronounce your name. Is it Iselin? Iselin? Yeah, Iselin, right? I might be wrong, but I think I figured it out. I forget from where, but I heard it. I was like, wait, isn't that her name? Like, wait. Brad, did you see what I sent in the Discord? No? For sure, my name has an S. Iselin. Iselin. Isel. I don't know, man. Iselin. 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 When you pronounce it faster, it's kind of becomes Z. Iselin. 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 I don't know. But is it the right pronunciation, though? I don't know. What's your name's? But I'm still gotta call you Ice because it's kind of cool. Ice. Sure. Okay, man. Okay, man. I don't see what you sent me on Discord. Wait, what is this? New. Wait, this is just my music cover. Why are you linking this? By the way, chat, you can check it on my YouTube channel, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I'm not gonna fucking play this like just like my fucking playing again. It's yeah. Yeah, YouTube, panel down below. It's a good song though. But I cannot play it here because it's a copyrighted material. What's gonna get muted again? So, panel down below, chat. Oisland, bruv. I stayed up for 50 hours to kill Sandman. Oh yeah. Good job, man. Jesus Christ, 50 hours though. My name is Iselin, but a lot of it is silent, so it's pronounced Steve. So we're still sticking with Steve thing, huh? Okay, Steve. Gotcha. Alright, moving on.
Go ahead, Mom. Take away my Xbox. Nothing you can do to unfuck the Thanksgiving turkey.
What? Whoa! Oh. Is that Racefic new video? Oh my god. Okay, we need to watch this. We need to watch this. Hello? Hello. It's about Warhammer. Okay. I'm gonna put that at the end though, because it's a 13-minute video. Okay. Never gonna give it up? Okay. Okay, Steve. I've introduced myself as Steve to some people. Oh! Australia patch note 079.
Traveling in a freighter combi.
Why is this 480p? Drinking physic bug fix. New vehicle. Nice. It's fucking something. What the fuck? It's a water snake. Huh? Is he sunbathing? Okay, good one. The fucking lag fix. What the fuck is this video? Where the fuck did you find it? It's not even an old video. What the fuck? Okay, go on though. Made me laugh. Shit. You skipped the anime parody? Well, I didn't skip any. No, that's the last one. Oh my fucking god, my ear. Okay. 12 minute? Okay. So long as the video. Okay. Well, I'm still awake, so it's around 55 hours now. What the shit, man? You need to go to sleep. It's 5 p.m. I forgot to eat breakfast bread back. Huh? Excuse me? 5 p.m. is almost dinner? What do you... What? Breakfast? What the fuck? Jesus Christ, she crazy. Help me, I'm not okay. Well, obviously, because you haven't slept for 50 hours. Go get some sleep, man. Oh shit, Jojo.
Nani indeed. You thought you defeated me? You Joestars are pathetic. All you achieved in our last battle was to postpone your death. Like a fisherman returning to shore for a forgotten rod, only to go back to sea and be lost in a storm.
Good grief.
How dare you! Well, you won't have to listen much longer. In fact, you won't ever hear anything again. The world is more powerful than ever, and with your pitiful stand defeated, I will crush you like the insect you are. What? A smile? What could you possibly have to be happy about?
My friend has just arrived.
What? Who dares?
My boy friend.
Boyfriend.
What?
What a ridiculous name! It will look especially funny when it's written on your tombstone!
Beep boop.
Oh, you're approaching me? Even though you've seen what the power of the world has done to your friend, I'd say you were brave, but foolish is more accurate. Like a schoolboy leaning out of a train window when a tunnel is just around the corner. Careful you don't lose your head.
Beep boop, beep boop, beep boop.
Okay, I cannot.
Beep boop, beep. Beep 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 beep. Boop boop boop.
You will find that defeating me with my all-powerful stand, the world, is much more challenging than murdering some chick's parents. Enough talk. It's time I put an end to this.
Scrap the beep bop boop.
Ah!
Beep boop, beep boop, beep.
Sing Don't you mean fight?
Beep boop bop beep. Beep boop. Beep beep bop boop bop.
Oh.
Beep bop boop beep. Beep boop beep bop. Beep boop beep bop beep boop. Beep beep bop beep.
I cannot.
Beep boop beep.
Enough! I'll play your little game. Stand or no stand, I will destroy!
Beep bop. Beep bop boop. Beep beep.
This is child's play!
Beep boop beep bop boop bop.
It certainly is.